welcome, community. We are back. I'm so glad you're here. This is like an important conversation and a good time for it because it happens to be Mental Health Month, which is an important month for us. And I think self-care just fits nicely into that. Our mental health is often overlooked because we are still working through stigmas and stereotypes, or we're just too busy. But even if self-care isn't as frequent on your calendar as I hope it would be, your presence here today tells me that you still prioritize yourself, which is pretty dope. And in the essence, that's a form of self-care. So, get it, girl, right? By choosing to invest time in yourself, despite all the things, the roles, the responsibilities, expectations, and feeling like we must do it all without help to maintain appearances, especially for us as communities of color, like it's a lot, right? And for us, I think self-care is often deprioritized in the midst of trying to do it all. But the choice to pick you or your well-being, like that is really the key to thriving. But I know a lot of us are not doing that. And I'm gonna call y'all out. And I know this because anxiety rates are skyrocketing. A lot of us are struggling just to go to work every day, not just on Monday. I hear on a regular basis how overwhelmed we are, how many of us really feel disconnected from our purpose and just overwhelmed and we're tired. We're just tired. And all of that, those are clear indicators that we are not thriving, we are not doing well. But yet, despite it, it's still hard for us to say, like, this is what I need and to make time for that. And again, that's why I think this conversation today is going to be super important for you to help you prioritize self-care again. In our community, the Mindset and Motivation community for women entrepreneurs of color, this is where the conversation is being hosted. But our goal is really to help you rediscover yourself, right? And if y'all are listening from the community, make sure to drop your hellos. If you are listening later on, catching the replay, same thing, drop your hellos. But for us in the community, it's about creating a space where the connections are there, the meaningful conversations like this wellness series is here, the practical skills for developing your mindset, pursuing your goals, your purpose, and even our retreats. All of that is really here for you to pour into you. And I'm so grateful that you decided to put yourself in a position to be poured into. All right. So that's my long intro just to say hello, y'all. So my name's Amanda Flood. I'm a psychotherapist, mindset coach for Black and Brown women in business, a business strategist, and much more. Speaker, author, and your host today. But really, I'm just excited to facilitate this conversation. It's going to be some concrete tips for managing stress and self-care, increasing your capacity, especially for women who lead. And I couldn't do this conversation by myself. I had to bring out the big dogs. Like you going to a special occasion, you break out the good outfit, right? We're going to war. We're going to bring out the big guns. Today, I'm bringing out the big guns to help me out. Miss Alicia Smith. Like, what's up, girl?
Hey, girl. Hey.
Hey. So we're going to go right into it, okay? As we talk about this idea of like increasing capacity, self-care, stress, all of those things, I want to know a little bit more. What does it mean for you as you kind of think about all those concepts? Because I don't know that we always put it together well, but I would love to hear how you conceptualize this connection between self-care and our capacity. Because, girl, we carry it a lot. And I think the truth is we're struggling. It's paralyzing us a bit. And, not that there's anything wrong with more, but I think our process is off. Our process is wrong.
Yeah, I would say that you can look at it a couple ways. But when I first think about capacity, like as a coach, like as a productivity and accountability coach, I'm always telling my clients and telling people, I help you find that hidden time in your day. So when I first think of capacity, I think of that hidden time because I want you to use that hidden time to pour into yourself, to pursue your goals, your purpose, and your life passion. And to me, that's where that self-care aspect comes in. But then you can also look at capacity in terms of your energy. Like how much energy do you truly, how much capacity? Like if you're looking at a container or a box or something, like how much more can truly get into that? What do you need to move around? What do you need to take out? What adjustments do you need to make? And to me, that then leads to boundaries. Because if you don't have these boundaries, then you're going to keep letting stuff fall into this container and it's going to keep getting filled up and you're not going to have no more capacity. And if you don't have the capacity, You're not going to have the energy because you're not going to be drained because you're stressed out and you're overwhelmed and you're all those things. So when I think about like capacity, it first goes to hidden time, and then it goes to energy, and then it goes to boundaries. So I kind of, those three things are like the three kind of words or phrases that initially pop up to me when I hear capacity, and especially in this conversation of mental health and things like that. Last month was stress awareness month, and I think stress awareness into mental health awareness is the perfect flow.
Right. And I love it. Y'all better start taking notes, because I had to go bring out my notepad, honey, because okay, it's a lot to take in, but we want to get all the good stuff. Okay, so who share capacity, time, energy, boundaries, all of those things, that it already starts off like a checklist for you. Like, oh my God, like, what am I doing with my time? Is there hidden time? Right? What am I doing with my energy? What's draining my energy? What boundaries do I need to? Ooh, we on fire. We on fire. Yes. But before we keep going, as you guys can hear already, the expert has already entered the room. But I want to take a step back and really have you also introduce yourself too. So can you tell them who you are and more about the work that you do? Because it's already on fire. Tell them, girl.
Yes. I am Coach Lee, your productivity and accountability coach. And I can now say author as well. I'm a criminal defense attorney by day, but I'm a productivity and accountability coach, like I like to say throughout. I'm all about empowering people, but specifically women, Black women, to find that hidden time in their day, to pour back into themselves so that they can pursue their goals, their purpose, and their life passions. Because like you were even saying in the introduction, as women, as Black women, we play so many different roles in life, and that as a result of those different roles that we play, we often put ourselves on the back burner because we're so busy showing up for everybody else that we put ourselves back. Like, after I'm done with them, then I'll show up for me. But the reality is that we have to show up for self first, because in showing up for self first, that gives us that capacity to show up for those other people. So that's what I do. That's kind of how I do it and what I'm all about, because I'm inspired to impact. I'm here to just show you that productivity isn't complicated. It's not hard. You do have time. Let me show you how without even neglecting those current responsibilities. Let's just do some adjusting.
I love that. And as I go back to that image of the container, it's like we fill the container, but like we drain it so fast at the same time. And the word productivity can feel so sort of like big and heavy, but I think it's a great place for us to really get into. So from a productivity lens, how can we increase capacity without running ourselves ragged?
It goes to the energy, because if you do things at the time that works best for you, and that means like literally time on the clock, but also time mentally and emotionally, because so often what I find is that people are forcing themselves to try to do things at the time that they don't have the capacity, i.e. I'm naturally a morning person. So if you try to have me stay up late to do some type of event, presentation, speaking, whatever the case may be, I don't have the capacity. I might physically be there, but emotionally and mentally, I'm not there. So when I talk about like energy and the capacity aspect, we can keep everything that's the same that's on your schedule, but let's rearrange the things that are on your schedule so that you're doing the things at the time that works best for you. So if you're a morning person, putting those things that involve most of your energy and your focus in the morning, instead of putting them in the evening when you're drained and you're tired. In the evenings when you're drained and you're tired, even if we taking something as simple as washing a load of laundry, you don't really need brain power to wash clothes because the washing machine does most of the work. You don't have brain power, but while you're sitting there watching Netflix, decompressing, you can just as easily fold up those clothes and put those clothes up on commercials. Or I know everybody watching Netflix and Hulu, so it's not really commercials, but when it say, do you want to go to the next episode during that little bit of time? So really, it's about rearranging what's on your schedule. And so that's why I say that I'm able to help you find that hidden time in your day without neglecting your current responsibilities. Because all we're going to really do is we're going to adjust where they are so that they are more in sync with your energy and with your capacity. And so in doing that, number one, you'll feel better because you'll be like, oh, look at all this stuff that I got done. And so that empowers you mentally and emotionally to want to do more, because you see that I can get things done instead of the things you've been telling yourself of, I can't get things done.
And I love all of that, because I think one of the biggest things that we often say to ourselves is like, I don't have time. But you just gave a really great example of how we do have time, because it's as simple as one, knowing what works for you, but even the time when you're decompressing, which we all do, and really a little bit too much, but that'll be another episode. But while you're sitting there, you can do that laundry because it doesn't require a lot of you, doesn't require a lot of setting, right? So
Yes.
I love that. And there's so many little ways, and maybe we're kind of creating this narrative that's not true, that we don't have the time for it.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of people talk about how multitasking is bad. Multitasking isn't bad. It's just the things that you're trying to multitask and do. Because in that
Okay.
example, watching TV and folding clothes, you're technically multitasking. You're doing multiple things, watching TV and folding up clothes. But you're not trying to watch TV and write an essay. You're not trying, that's two different sides of the brain and two different aspects of the brain that you're using. But productivity isn't really that hard. We've complicated it, but we have to change the way that we look at productivity and change the way we think about it to make it more possible. And really, that's what it kind of comes back to when you think about self-care. Change the way you're looking at self-care as well, because it can be those little things that add up and over time make this bigger aspect of self-care. Because when we beat ourselves down, we do these little things over time that ends up in this big way that we beat ourselves down. So if we do these little things over time, that can be the way that we build ourselves up.
Yeah, and kind of like undo the madness that we've created.
Exactly. Or at least stabilize it.
Right. Man, so if people, and you kind of said this, right? So I want to say, if people still feel like it's a lot, right? Or I don't have time, but I mean, you said it's like, we've got to look at it differently. And I mean, that's like where mindset comes in, because you've got to decide to set your mind on something else. Not that this is hard, not that this is too much, but what are the little things that I can do? But if folks are still in that space, how do they shift? Like, what do you see really works for people in your work with women?
I say make a list. I'm all about lists. Because we keep so much in our head, because we play these different roles and we have to be here, there, and everywhere, that we're trying to keep it all in our head. But sometimes if we take the time to actually sit down and write down what we have to do, number one, you might realize you don't actually have to do it. There's someone else that can do it.
Right. Delegate.
Exactly. Or you might see that I do need to do it, but I don't need to do it right now. Like, I might have put it on the schedule for the day thinking it had to be done today. But really, when I look at maybe my schedule, I'm going to be in this area 2 days from now, and I can do this thing then. For example, I need to return my library books to the library. I finished reading them like a week ago, but the library isn't close to my house. But today I'm going to meet my dad for dinner. I'm going to be by a library. And so in being by the library, now I can conveniently return those library books instead of me getting in my car and going 15, 20 minutes out of my way just to return this library book. So when we start writing down what it is that we need to do, opportunities will present themselves for us to get those things done in a more conducive and convenient way, i.e., finding that hidden time in your day.
I love it. So it's a little more strategic thinking, but at the same time, it's really not that hard. It's like practical and common sense.
Exactly.
Yeah, we could do that. So listen, I love these tips, and I guess self-care doesn't even have to be that complicated, right? Because if you are just deciding that I'm going to work on this thing, I can do it in some of these little simple ways and just get started there. And I think the starting is important, and also creating space for those little wins, because you mentioned that too. As you sit down and like watch TV and fold the clothes, you feel good that you actually did it. The clothes didn't sit there all week. We actually got it done. Like, yes. And we need those little wins. So maybe it is really starting with the smaller things. And would you kind of recommend that? Like, should we start with like the big heavy ticket items, or should we start with the small things? Oh, I have a feeling it may depend on also just you and how you operate to like individualize. But
I would say if you have to choose one, start small. Get those small wins. You know how sometimes you write a list of things that you already did just to cross them off, just so you can be like, hey, I did something.
I did that, right.
And then the backup would be, if you want to start with those heavy hitter things, pair a big thing with a little thing. Don't try to do 3 big things. Do 1 big thing and 2, 3 small things. And then you like, oh, I still feel accomplished.
Yeah. And maybe in the reverse, we could challenge you not to do all the little things, right? Like push yourself a little bit.
We can build some momentum with all the little things to at least get you moving. Because some of those little things are those things you've been putting off, like that laundry. We make laundry such a big feat and a big task, but really, is laundry really that complicated and really that hard when the washing machine is doing most of the heavy lifting? We putting in detergent, taking it out, putting it to the dryer, throwing a dryer sheet, push start.
Yeah. Perspective. My husband does a lot of the laundry, but I always admire how he works, because I think he works in this capacity where like he'll just be watching a show, then he'll just go get a basket and he starts folding. I'm like, wow, so impressed.
Exactly.
I'm just gonna lay here, but I'm so impressed, right? So it does work, guys. It does. Yeah. But now I'm going to have to shift my perspective around it and challenge myself in my downtime, the brief time, to see if maybe I'll fold a basket of clothes. I'll get back to y'all and let y'all know.
Why are you laying there? Why are you laying there admiring him? See you doing some self-care. You admiring your man at work.
Yes. Cheering him on.
Exactly.
I love that. For you guys listening, if you are committed to doing the work, put the word work in the chat, and whatever that means for you, right? Maybe your work is, I'm going to take on a little bit. Maybe your work is, I'm going to set some new boundaries for myself or other people. Whatever that is, put that word in the chat. We want to see y'all showing up for yourselves. Coach Lee lives this. We see her every week. She's posting in the community what her goals are for the week. I think it's a great just visual example of how you can get organized with the same list, which is super cool. And I guess even per person, you can think about what works for you, right? Do you need like cute fancy? Do you need just a piece of paper? Do you need like an app on your phone? I imagine whatever works for the person.
Exactly. Whatever you're going to stick with. Because as you start doing one way, you might evolve into the other way, because you might see that this doesn't have this thing that I need, or I find myself leaving my list at work when I do paper or whatever the case may be. So maybe you slowly evolve. But the first thing is just to start doing the habit.
Yeah. Stop thinking about it too. Just start. True. Because then you can kind of evolve and see what works. Exactly. And I like that because there's like flexibility in that too. Because even for myself, I know it changes. Like I'll use my whiteboard at work, or sometimes I go through phases where I'll just do it on my phone so I can check it off, or like going home with, I'll just take a picture of the list so I remember, or I'll write it out on a sticky. So when I go home, I remember whatever is left that I still want to work on. So I like the idea of it doesn't have to be a certain way. Be flexible with it too.
Exactly.
So dope. So now if they want to work with you personally, honey, because you just hot fire and there's just a few couple minutes here. So imagine like really sitting down and having her tell you about yourself. You might find a lot of hidden time. So how can they reach you?
I am legally.me everywhere. So I can't even spell, LEGALLEE.me, Instagram, Facebook, some of them other platforms, but basically Instagram and Facebook is the main two. So you can just reach out to me there and we can start a conversation.
I love that. And if you just want a space to be poured into, definitely find us on Facebook on the Mindset and Motivation community. Come jump on the retreat with us to Bali, Ultimate Self-Care Experience. Definitely make sure that you guys follow Coach Lee, because she's always dropping lots of great gems, especially on Instagram, but she's also in our community. But reach out. I think the best thing that we can do sometimes is just ask a question and ask for help, because somebody has your answer, right? And they could at least kind of guide you in the right direction, right? So we can't wait to see how you guys take care of yourself this month and even beyond. But thank you so much, Coach Lee. Great hanging out with your community. Great seeing you guys. And we'll catch you at the next one.